I heard the champagne cork pop before I heard my mother say the words that would change everything. We were standing in my parents' living room in Arlington, Virginia. White tablecloth, catered food, family photos everywhere. My sister Emily and I had just graduated from medical school on the same day. Different schools, same milestone. Mom had planned this celebration for weeks. I watched the champagne foam spill over the glass rim as Dad cleared his throat. He was smiling that proud smile I'd been chasing my whole life. Mom stood beside him, one hand on Emily's shoulder. "We have a surprise," Dad announced. The room went quiet. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all watching. "Emily, sweetheart, we know how hard you've worked. Medical school isn't cheap. So your mother and I talked it over, and we're paying off your student loans. All of them." Emily gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. Everyone clapped. I stood there holding my champagne glass, frozen. Waiting. Nobody looked at me. "Congratulations, honey," Mom said to Emily, pulling her into a hug. "You deserve this." I set my glass down carefully on the side table. My hands were shaking. I counted to 10 in my head, waiting for them to say my name. Waiting for Dad to turn to me with that same proud smile. He didn't. The party continued around me like I wasn't even there. Let me back up so you understand how we got here. My name is Sasha, and I'm the oldest. Emily is 2 years younger. Growing up in our house, there was always a clear hierarchy. Emily was the sunshine. I was the shadow. It wasn't always obvious. My parents never said they loved her more. But love isn't just what people say. It's in the details. The small choices that add up over years until you're standing in a room full of people realizing you've been invisible your entire life. Emily got the bigger bedroom. When I asked why, Mom said it was because she needed more closet space. Emily got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a card with $50 inside and a speech about responsibility. When Emily didn't get into her first choice college, Dad called the admissions office 3 times. When I didn't get the scholarship I wanted, he told me to work harder. I learned early that if I wanted anything, I had to earn it myself. So that's what I did. If you've ever been the forgotten child in your family, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because I know I'm not alone in this. I decided to become a doctor when I was 12. My grandfather had a heart attack, and I watched the ER team save his life. Something clicked. I wanted to be the person who could do that. I worked 3 jobs through undergrad to save money. I studied until my eyes burned. I got into Georgetown University School of Medicine on merit and loans. So many loans. But I didn't care. I was going to be a doctor. Then Emily decided she wanted to be a doctor too. She applied 2 years after me. Got into George Washington University School of Medicine. Everyone acted like it was destiny. The 2 sisters, both doctors. Mom posted about it on Facebook constantly. My brilliant girls. Except Emily's path looked different than mine. Mom and Dad helped her with rent. They paid for her MCAT prep course. They sent her grocery money every month. When she struggled with biochemistry, Dad hired her a private tutor. I asked for help once. Just once. Second year, when I was drowning in debt and working overnight shifts at a hospital cafeteria just to pay my rent. I called Dad and asked if they could help with even 1 month. "Sasha," he said, his voice tired. "You're the responsible one. You've always figured things out." Emily needs more support. You understand, right? I said yes because that's what I always did. I hung up and cried in my car for 20 minutes before my shift started. We graduated on the same Saturday in May. Different ceremonies, different schools, but my parents managed to attend both. They took photos with Emily first because her ceremony ended earlier. By the time they got to mine, Mom looked exhausted and Dad kept checking his phone. Still, we smiled for pictures. I wore my white coat and held my diploma and pretended everything was fine. That's when Mom mentioned the celebration dinner. A party for both of you, she said. This weekend. The whole family. It's going to be special. I thought maybe this was it. The moment where I finally got acknowledged. Where all the years of working twice as hard would pay off. Where they would see me. I was so stupid. Back to that living room in Arlington. The champagne. The announcement. The moment where my entire family celebrated Emily while I stood there like a piece of furniture. I waited exactly 15 minutes. Then I walked over to where Mom and Dad were standing with Emily, surrounded by relatives fawning over her. Excuse me, I said quietly. Can I talk to you both? Privately? Mom looked annoyed. Sasha, we're in the middle of. It'll just take a minute. We stepped into the kitchen. Dad leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Mom stood by the sink, already defensive. I just wanted to ask, I said, keeping my voice steady. About my loans. You're paying off Emily's. What about mine? Silence. Then Mom laughed. Actually laughed. Sasha, honey, you're so independent. You've always been fine on your own. Emily needs more help. You understand. I have $240,000 in debt, I said. My voice cracked. I worked 3 jobs through undergrad. I've been living on ramen and overnight shifts for 4 years. Emily had her rent paid. She had tutors. She had everything handed to her. And now you're giving her this? Dad sighed like I was being difficult. Life isn't fair, Sasha. You're strong. You'll figure it out. Emily is more fragile. We're just trying to give her a good start. What about my start? You've already started, Mom said. Look at you. You're fine. I wasn't fine. I was breaking. But they couldn't see it because they'd never actually looked at me. Tap like if you've ever been told you're too strong to need help. Because that's just code for, we don't want to help you. I left the party early. Nobody noticed. I drove back to my tiny apartment in Baltimore and sat on my floor surrounded by boxes. I was supposed to start my residency at Johns Hopkins in 3 weeks. My dream hospital. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I opened my laptop and looked at my loan balance. $247,382. The interest alone was suffocating. Then I looked at Emily's Instagram. She'd already posted about the party. About Mom and Dad's incredible gift. About how blessed she felt. The comments were full of congratulations. I almost posted my own version. Almost wrote, my parents paid off my sister's $180,000 in loans but told me to figure out my $247,000 because I'm independent. Blessed. But I didn't. Because I knew what would happen. They'd say I was bitter. Jealous. Making it about me. The family would close ranks around Emily like they always did. So instead, I made a different decision. I decided to disappear. Not physically, but emotionally, financially, from their lives entirely. They wanted me to be independent? Fine. I'd show them what that actually looked like. I spent that night making a list. Every way my parents were still connected to my life. Every thread I needed to cut. I was still on their health insurance. Off. I was listed as emergency contact on their accounts. Removed. They had a key to my apartment. Changed the locks. We had a family phone plan they paid for. I switched to my own plan and paid the cancellation fee myself. I'd been planning to ask Dad for career advice about residency programs. Not anymore. I'd been planning to come home for holidays. Not anymore. Then I went deeper. I looked at my career trajectory. Hopkins was prestigious, but the salary during residency was barely livable. I needed money. Real money. Fast. So I applied for every high-paying moonlighting opportunity one could find. Extra shifts. Night coverage. Weekend calls. Telehealth consulting. I said yes to everything. I also started documenting. Every text from my parents asking for updates. Every family group chat message I was excluded from. Every Instagram post from Emily showing off her debt-free life while I worked 80-hour weeks. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. But I knew I needed evidence. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That this wasn't normal. 3 weeks passed before my parents noticed I'd gone quiet. Mom texted, "Haven't heard from you. Everything okay?" I responded, "Busy with residency. I'm fine." That was it. No phone calls. No checking in. Just a text every few weeks asking if I was alive. Emily, meanwhile, kept posting. She got a job at a nice practice in Northern Virginia near Mom and Dad. She moved into a beautiful apartment. No debt. No stress. Just living her best life. I worked. I worked until my body ached. Until I forgot what sleep felt like. But every extra shift was money toward those loans. Every dollar was freedom. 6 months into residency, I'd paid off $30,000. My parents didn't know because I stopped telling them anything. Mom called in November. "You're coming home for Thanksgiving, right?" "I'm working," I said. "Sasha, it's Thanksgiving. Family is important. I have loans to pay off. Someone has to work the holiday shifts." Silence. Then, quietly, "Are you still upset about the loan thing?" The loan thing. Like it was nothing. Like it hadn't broken something fundamental between us. "I'm not upset," I said. "I'm busy. You told me to figure it out. That's what I'm doing. You're being dramatic." I hung up. That Thanksgiving, Emily posted photos from my parents' house. The whole family was there. Turkey, pies, smiling faces. There was an empty chair at the table where I would have sat. Nobody commented on it. Comment if you've ever been the one working the holiday while your family celebrated without you. I see you. January of my second year of residency, something happened that changed everything. I was covering the ER when a woman came in with her daughter. The daughter had collapsed at school. Severe dehydration, malnutrition. While I was treating her, the mother broke down crying. "I can't afford her medications," she said. I have to choose between rent and her prescriptions. I thought I could skip a few doses. I didn't know. I held her hand while she cried. We stabilized her daughter. Connected them with social services. Made sure they got help. But driving home that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My parents had $180,000 to give Emily. They had that money sitting somewhere, liquid enough to write a check. And they chose to give it to the child who needed it least. Meanwhile, there were families like the woman in my ER who were drowning. Who actually needed help. That's when the plan crystallized. I started a fund. I didn't tell anyone at first. I just opened a separate account and started funneling money into it. Money from my extra shifts. Money I would have used for rent upgrades or vacations or anything that would have made my life easier. I called it the Second Daughter Fund. For medical students and residents who were the overlooked ones. The ones who didn't get help. The ones told they were too independent to need support. I researched how to set it up properly. Talked to lawyers. Filed the paperwork. Made it official. By the end of that year, I'd saved $50,000. I gave out my first grant, $5,000 to a third-year medical student at Georgetown who was working overnight security shifts to pay rent. She cried when I told her. That feeling, watching someone's burden lift, was better than anything my parents' approval had ever given me. 2 years into residency, I got a call from Dad. We need to talk about your attitude, he said. My attitude? You've been distant. Your mother is hurt. Emily says you won't return her calls. This has gone on long enough. I almost laughed. You want to talk about what's gone on long enough? Sasha. No. Listen. You made your choice. You decided Emily deserved a debt-free start and I didn't. You told me I was strong enough to figure it out alone. So that's what I did. I figured it out. Without you. We gave you the same opportunities. You didn't. You never did. And the only reason you're calling now is because it's starting to look bad. Because people are noticing I'm not at family events. Because Emily probably complained that I don't fawn over her anymore. Silence. I've paid off $120,000 of my loans, I continued. By myself. Working doubles and triples and every holiday shift I could find. And you know what? I'm not even angry anymore. I'm grateful. Because I learned exactly who I can depend on. And it's not you. I hung up before he could respond. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family who took you for granted, subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. A month later, Emily called me. She was crying. Why would you do this? She sobbed. Do what? The fund. The Second Daughter Fund. Mom saw it online. She's devastated. The fund had grown. I'd been featured in a medical journal article about resident wellness initiatives. They'd interviewed me about why I started it. I'd told the truth. I was the second daughter who never got support, so I built support for others like me. I didn't name my parents. Didn't need to. But everyone who knew our family could read between the lines. Why is Mom devastated? I asked calmly. Because you made us look like terrible parents. I didn't make you look like anything. I just told my story. You're embarrassing us. People are asking questions. They want to know why Mom and Dad paid off my loans but not yours. It makes them look bad. Does it make them look bad, Emily? Or does it make them look exactly like what they are? She hung up on me. My parents demanded a family meeting. I almost didn't go. But something in me wanted to face them. Wanted to see if they'd finally understand. We met at a coffee shop in Arlington. Neutral ground. Mom looked tired. Dad looked angry. Emily looked like she'd been crying for days. "You've made your point," Dad said immediately. "You're upset. We get it. But this fund, this public display, it needs to stop." "It's not a display," I said. "It's a mission." "You're punishing us," Mom said. Her voice cracked. "You're punishing Emily. She didn't do anything wrong." "You're right. She didn't. This isn't about her. It's about you. About the choices you made. The priorities you set." "We did our best," Dad said. "Your best was telling me I was too strong to need help while handing Emily everything. Your best was watching me work myself to exhaustion and never once asking if I was okay. Your best was celebrating her at a party where you didn't even acknowledge my debt." Mom looked away. Emily stared at her coffee cup. "I don't want your money now," I continued. "I've paid off $140,000. I'll pay off the rest myself. But I want you to understand something. You taught me that I couldn't rely on family. So I built a new family. People who understand what it means to be overlooked. And we're helping each other." "So that's it?" Dad said. "You're just cutting us off?" "You cut me off years ago," I said quietly. "You just didn't notice because I was still showing up. Tap like if you know what it's like to be present but invisible in your own family." I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. The fund kept growing. Other residents reached out with their stories. Second daughters, forgotten sons, overlooked siblings. I wasn't alone. We were building something real. My parents sent emails. Long ones. Defensive at first, then apologetic. They wanted to make things right. They offered to pay off my remaining loans. I declined. Because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle. They'd had the chance to help me when I needed it. When I was drowning and desperate. They chose not to. They chose to believe I didn't need them. So now I didn't. Emily stopped calling. I heard through mutual friends that she was in therapy, processing what she called complicated family dynamics. I hoped it helped her. I genuinely did. She wasn't the villain. She was just the favorite. And that came with its own damage. I finished my residency at Hopkins. Top of my class. I had job offers from every major hospital on the East Coast. I chose a position at a community hospital in Baltimore. Not the most prestigious. Not the highest paying. But it served the families like that mother and daughter from the ER. The ones who needed advocates. I kept running the fund. We gave out over $200,000 in grants that year. Every recipient got more than money. They got a letter that said, "You are not too strong to need help. You are not too independent to deserve support. You are seen." The letter I wished someone had given me. My parents showed up at my white coat ceremony when I became an attending physician. I didn't invite them. They just appeared. Sat in the back. Watched. Afterward, Mom approached me carefully. "I'm proud of you," she said. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She'd aged. There were lines around her eyes I didn't remember. "Thank you," I said. "Can we try again?" she asked. "Can we fix this?" I thought about it. About all the years of being invisible. About the party where they celebrated Emily and forgot me. About the countless times I'd asked for help and been told I didn't need it. "Maybe," I said finally. "But not yet. I need more time." She nodded. Cried a little. Left. I don't know if we'll ever have a real relationship again. Part of me grieves that. Part of me has accepted it. Here's what I learned through all of this. Being strong doesn't mean you don't need help. Being independent doesn't mean you should have to do everything alone. And being overlooked doesn't mean you're forgettable. My parents taught me I wasn't worth investing in. So I invested in myself. And then I invested in others like me. That fund? It's still running. We've helped over 100 medical students and residents now. Every single one of them was told they were too independent or too strong or you'll figure it out. And they did figure it out. But they didn't have to do it alone. I paid off my last student loan 3 months ago. $247,382. All of it. By myself. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't post about it. Just made the final payment and sat in my car feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Free. Not because the debt was gone. But because I'd proven to myself that I didn't need their validation. Their help. Their approval. I was enough. I always had been. If this story hit home, tell me in the comments what you learned from being the overlooked one in your family. And subscribe, because there are more stories like mine out there. Stories about people who were counted out and counted themselves back in. We're not bitter. We're not broken. We're just done waiting for people who never showed up to finally see us. And honestly, that's the most powerful position of all.